Welcome to The Glitter Effect, a podcast dedicated to shining a light on the movers, shakers, change makers, and all-round living legends of our communities who are making a real difference. Today on the podcast, I am joined by an incredible woman whose work is truly making a difference for some of the most vulnerable members of our community. Kirsty Porter is the founder of Umbrella Dementia Cafés, a not-for-profit organisation that provides safe, inclusive and welcoming spaces for people living with dementia, as well as their loved ones. What began as a heartfelt response to a personal experience has grown into a vital support network offering social connection, compassion and hope to so many families. Kirsty is a passionate advocate for creating a more dementia-friendly society, and her work speaks to the power of community and the deep impact of human connection. Through her vision, she's not only reducing isolation, but also changing the way we talk about and support those living with dementia. This episode is filled with insight, emotion, and inspiration, so grab a cuppa and settle in. Kirsty's story and her glitter are a true reminder of how small actions can lead to powerful change. Kirsty Porter, welcome to The Glitter Effect.
Yay, thanks, Kate. Thanks for having me. This is fantastic. What a wonderful way to communicate what I do.
Oh, I'm thrilled to have you. And I know you're a busy lady, so I'm really chuffed to bits that you've taken time out of your busy schedule to just share what you're doing, incredible stuff that you're doing. We're going to dive straight in, Kirsty. And can we start by setting the scene? Can you tell us a little bit about dementia in Australia today and what do we need to know or understand better as a community?
I think the most important recognition is that we now have nearly 500,000 people living with dementia in Australia. So about 433,000 is the latest count. We all suspect that is much lower than the actual number because so many people don't get diagnosed or are incorrectly diagnosed. But for the most part, we've found Dementia Australia has recognised that it's probably going to be increased to nearly $1 million. Sorry, 1 million people, not $1 million. Which is a real public concern. It's going to have a massive impact economically. And there's also a whole cohort of people that we're not sort of talking about as the people under 65 or the younger onset dementia, which it looks to be about 30,000 dementia people living with dementia in Australia. And this is a real concern because so many of these young people are working still, or they have carers that are working, they've got children still at home. So there's massive area of care supports that are missing. And there's a big statistic that's just coming out that it's also the leading cause of death for women and the second leading cause of death for all Australians. And so that kind of data suggests that this is a bigger conversation, that we just can't talk about dementia from a social point of view or an aged care point of view, that we talk about it within the community and that we're all prepared for what's coming and how to prevent dementia within ourselves because it is a lifestyle. It's based on our lifestyle choices, cognitive impairment. Well, I do have a little caveat in there. There is a percentage of people living with dementia that does come from genetic predisposition, but that's a whole nother podcast.
I will have you back.
But I will say, just by pulling that last bit of information together, is that with every one person that lives with dementia, there's going to be two people who are in the carer's role or have will report some sort of it's called carer's burden or something that sort of they're deeply attached to somebody who's living with dementia, so that their lives are impacted. So Dementia Australia estimates to be about 1.8, 1.7 million people who are involved in the care of someone with dementia. But that's informal, that's not paid, that's at home, in the community. So it's a massive problem. As you can imagine, the frustration and the guilt and the shame that comes with caring for someone who's living with a cognitive impairment, not to mention the financial impact that, best part of 2 million people, are out of the community or workforce, supporting someone with dementia. So it's a big conversation piece.
That's huge. I didn't actually realize it was that much when I was researching it. I didn't actually realize it was that big. So it's actually something we're going to hear a lot more about moving forward,
Yeah,
hopefully.
definitely. It's a conversation way beyond residential care. I believe 70% of people living with dementia are in the community. So, when we go into an aged care setting, it's usually because it's the end stages. So
Yeah.
there's going to be 5 to 10 years of where families have supported their loved one living with dementia, which is a really long time,
Mm.
and there isn't an end date.
Yep.
We just don't know when the best time is to get those external supports.
Yeah. And it's heavy. It's heavy for families. And that's why, your initiative, Umbrella Dementia Cafés, I think is a truly beautiful initiative that you've created. Talk us through what Umbrella Dementia Cafés are and how did the idea first come to life?
Well, I'm a nurse by trade, so I was a residential aged care nurse, and my career trajectory was supposed to run a facility, quite a large facility, and it just happened at about the same time I finished a graduate degree in aged services management. I went on holiday with my family over to the UK. At the time, my grandma was living with dementia, but she had very early stages, and
Hmm.
it was happening, but it wasn't an urgent problem within the family. She was well supported at home, had a really good community networks, things like that.
Yep.
But when I had read in the newsletter that I was reading a newspaper at my mother-in-law's house, and it said Dementia Cafe opens a garden, and so I was super curious as to what that looked like because it sounded very community centered. I didn't understand what the how the garden had anything to do with a cafe and
Mm.
dementia. It just didn't make sense to me. So I dragged my husband along to this cafe, this dementia cafe, to see what it was all about. And it completely changed my life in my career trajectory. It was the most extraordinary demonstration of a community looking after their own. It was the village model personified. There
Beautiful.
wasn't a nurse or a doctor. There wasn't a council member or an allied health professional. They were all volunteers who had lived experiences that were creating this social environment for their local community. And every Friday they got together for a cuppa, and through these conversations were finding solutions to stay at home longer. And it was as simple as that. And it really took my breath away that they could organize themselves in that
Mm.
way. I mean, I had met them after 8 years of operating, so they had some, they've gotten over their teething issues. Uh, they had implemented training for themselves and support and some systems and processes to keep it going. But it was fascinating to see how the whole community was involved. It wasn't just this core group of people who had lived experience. You had people that ran businesses locally that were volunteering to support this group.
How lovely.
It was beautiful. So yeah, bringing that back to Australia was an absolute priority for me, especially when I saw that we weren't doing it on that same intention.
And how long ago was this, Kirsty?
That was January 2015.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Wow.
it really spearheaded my research into understanding dementia in Australia
Hmm.
beyond the clinical space. So beyond that medical clinical response in aged care. Um, and for somebody who was a nurse for 20 years, learning things like dementia is not a normal part of aging.
Mm.
There are hundreds of different types of dementias. It's not just Alzheimer's. There's a significant difference in the trajectory of these diseases and the treatment. That there are so many carers doing this alone, that the communities aren't educated locally.
Mm.
We do rely on big businesses to find the solutions that we can't within find ourselves, and it is so expensive.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I saw this happening, and I saw how in England, and there's thousands of them over there, dementia cafes, independently run. I just I managed to influence my friends in the community because I had young children at the time, and sort of explained this idea of having a support group that we would do as volunteers in our own time, on like a side hustle, for want of a better term.
Yep.
How we can support our own, essentially.
Yep.
And that very first cafe was the 25th of October 2016, and that was attended by 45 people.
Wow.
It wasn't, we didn't expect that at all. We were taken aback. We had lots of children from the school next door who we recruited last minute to help us, which brought in that whole multi-generational impact conversation. So, but when we walked away from that first cafe, we really, really understood the importance of socializing for people with dementia, the emotional support that the carers needed, the practical support that they shared with each other because they were naturally sharing their stories and their experiences, how inclusive it felt because there was such a multi-generational experience. And then the conversations that led within my core group of friends who were between 30 and 45 was health prevention. What do I need to do to make my life healthier so dementia doesn't come to me, I suppose, for whatever. And that's a really layman's turn of responding because we didn't have the language about the impact that had. So brain health then became a big conversation, and it was organic, so yeah.
Gosh, I can't believe just on your first one, 45 people attended. And that just shows you, and that's one small suburb. And that wasn't even, that was just people probably in the closest vicinity.
Yeah.
So then you go, that's multiplied, and you go, wow, it's huge. That's huge. Now where are your cafes? They're mainly in Victoria, aren't they? Or just in Victoria?
Yeah, they are. Look, that first cafe, we're only going to do one or two max because we all had lives outside of this thing. And it took our breath away that we wanted to continue to do them. So we were doing them in Blackburn for 2 years before we started to see, the question was, well, if we could do it in one place, what does it look like if we to do it in another? So we did it 500 meters down the road at Blackburn North, which was a completely different outcome, like a different physical environment, different volunteer team, different community. So the activities were different and the relationships were different, but such a beautiful, that still inclusive, still has choice and connection, and awareness was still part of that. So then we became a formal charity after 2 years, and we launched our third cafe in Box Hill South. And that was in 2019. And at the same year, we had another grant that opened us in Rosebud, which is on the one of the coasts. It's the peninsula, Mornington Peninsula in Victoria. Then that inspired a fifth cafe in Sorrento, which was through another grant. So we have 5, but we have influenced and we have supported 5 other cafes setting up in Victoria. So
fantastic.
Yeah, that's through education, awareness, public speaking, resources, mentoring, coaching, all of that stuff. And after 9 years of doing this, we're now at the stage of trying to build resources for organizations all over Australia to build their own dementia cafe. But it is in the infancy. It's in its infancy.
We knew what you meant. We know what you mean. So were you the first of its kind in Australia?
I believe I'm the first of its kind that is a formal charity. I know there's dementia cafes all over Australia. My last count is about 75, but they're really hard to find because they are so siloed in their own community. So they're not connected to each other. So we have to be in this, when we run dementia cafes, we have to be in this together as a community force. It has to be so grassroots and so community minded that our voice is bigger than the voices of people who get paid to do this, like the home care providers and aged care providers. That doesn't mean we should be reducing our quality, our best practice, our measurement and outcomes and all that stuff. That should absolutely be included, but not for the benefit of more money going to home care and aged care providers, but they are actually centered in the community space. And if you go back to that number I pulled out, about 2 million formal carers, community members supporting their loved one with dementia, 1.7 million people, you know that they're not being supported as well as they could be financially to stay at home and look after their loved one. So it's a really big conversation about how the community can be more involved. And then what are the practical supports that can be put in place to do that? So it is a really cost-effective solution. And that's what Umbrella Dementia is doing. Umbrella Dementia Cafés are doing. So it's a big journey. It's a big, ambitious journey. And our goal is to have one dementia cafe in every community in Australia. And that doesn't mean that we're running them, but we know about them and we're talking to each other in a trustworthy and integrity way, with integrity.
So talk me through just a little bit, Kirsty, about if I was to come with a family member to a dementia cafe, what happens? How long do they go for? What sort of things do they do for the person with dementia and the carer? What talk me through what happens?
So dementia cafes generally 2 hours long. They're pop-up cafes, so they're not in a retail. They're often so I would call them programs, I suppose, that are run out of community centres or churches, lifestyle clubs like men's sheds, or anywhere, bowls clubs. And those 2 hours are really for socializing. Usually the first hour is pure socializing, cup of coffee, how was your weekend, how's it going at home. That just chit chat, relaxed, easy, no pressure. You'll have a lot of volunteers in there who are enjoying the conversations. Conversations are important when people working with someone with dementia, because you can't talk about necessarily the weekend, like I just said. I mean, the carers probably do that. We're going to talk about life conversations and life milestones and life interests. But then the second part of the hour is generally, what for us, Umbrella Dementia Cafés, is for the carers to have their own separate meeting. And that allows them to speak about their journey living with, supporting someone with dementia away from their partner who lives with dementia. And that safeguards their dignity and integrity, and that you aren't feel like you've been spoken about at the table. Even whether you understand that or not is irrelevant. I think that it feels uncomfortable. So, but while that's happening, the volunteers really lift and elevate and do these amazing life activities that really brings out individuals come alive, or inspired, anything that you're interested, really. If you're a footy player, let's kick the footy. If you're an arts and craft person, let's do that. If you're a teacher, let's write something together or have a conversation about that. If you're a mechanic, let's pull apart a starter motor, which is another whole story in itself. But it's about the community or the volunteers knowing what the interests are of those people living with dementia, or the people who are there. And that's it. That's 2 hours. When everyone goes home, the volunteers pack down the cafe, talk about what happened, and get ready for the next one. And we do them in each location. We do them 21 times a year. So it works out to be almost every fortnight.
That's a lot. And you're purely volunteer run?
Purely volunteer run. Each of these cafes, we've just started to employ facilitators for each cafe. So
that's great.
It's fantastic that we've been able to get to that stage. And then the facilitators talk to the cafe coordinators, so the administrators in the office, and together we build the next set of cafes. But overall, through the whole year, we run over 110 cafes in those 5 locations.
That's huge. And so how do people generally find out about them? Is it through word of mouth? Is it through healthcare professionals?
It's both, Kate. They will do a word of mouth is the most common one, because it's community centered. Most of the people who attend these cafes within a 10-mile radius, and so they're doing similar things together. But I will get referrals from the local bank. because the teller,
Oh.
knows people who come for the last 20 years, and they'll make a phone call to me if there's space. The teller behind the post office will also do a referral. So family members will do a referral. We get the biggest referrals after Christmas and New Year's, because that's when family have all come together and gone, oh gosh, mom or dad, you need,
Oh, that's
support.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is. Then the Google search comes through, and they'll make an inquiry. But Kate, we are full to the brim. And we've got a wait list as long as the people who attend. So
Gosh.
because our cafes, we only look after 10 couples per cafe because of the nature of living with dementia. The noise is a big part of our sensory environment and our dementia-friendly environment. So, we need to do more. We need to have more of these cafes. That's the solution for us. So,
Yeah, well, that's not an easy one, and that leads me to my next question. How are you funded?
so people ask me this question all the time because it doesn't make any sense. We're not government funded.
No.
And how we managed to do this was about 2 years ago. That was the question: how are we going to survive? Especially after COVID, when we had no right to have survived COVID. Being a social group for people living with dementia, but we did, and we did. Actually, we thrived, and because our community was within a 5-kilometre radius, our volunteers, our members, our facilitators were all local. So we were able to support each other very, very quickly.
That's good.
We called them fence over the fence check-ins. And we were able to convert some of our grants into food delivery, and then we were able to help people set up their technology to use Zoom. So we didn't lose anyone during COVID, but we also had some really great funding partners at the time who refused us to close down. So there's a lot of cash donations that came through those early stages that could last for those 2 years. So locally, each dementia cafe is funded separately. And this is a big achievement of ours. Each person that comes to a dementia cafe will pay $25 to attend per cafe. And that money we can raise throughout the year supports one human resource, which is a cafe facilitator.
Great.
The other part of the money, so we need to raise $5,000 per cafe per year, comes from Rotary groups, Lion clubs, Bendigo Banks, all those beautiful little local communities, the local butchers, the hairdressers, the fundraising from a football club or a netball club. That's the absolute essence of the community working together to support their own.
So you're very much a grassroots
it has to
setup.
be.
Yeah, I love that. That's not very common now in sort of a not-for-profit space traditionally. So that's great.
Yeah, if we can keep the funding local, if we keep each cafe sustained locally, it shows that the model can be done, the financial demonstration like this can be done throughout Australia. That people can run these dementia cafes without us, without that big brother environment, that they are empowered to run their dementia cafes the way they want to and with the money they have locally. Because if we start to rely on this government funding and the policies change, then the business changes, and it's not fair. It's just not fair. So the big umbrella, the operations of this umbrella of the charity is funded through bigger funding partners and philanthropic groups. So people who really believe what we're doing to change the way people age with dementia in Australia. That's the absolute crux of our partners, and we absolutely love them. Oh my gosh, we wouldn't do without them. But they support the business element of it, and to make sure that all the systems and processes and quality and best practice and making sure we achieve our vision is just in a straight line. So we're very, very lucky, and that's how we're funded.
That's great. And that's future proofing too, isn't it? That's not getting too big for your boots, and it's future proofing.
Not too big for your boots. We go at the pace we need to go at. We have started fundraising 2 years ago, like on a bigger scale. We have something called Dance Against Dementia, which happens every September during International Dementia Awareness Month. That is the funnest, most exciting event. People dancing to raise money for dementia. You just can't. It's so good. It's so good. But Kate, it came back to that first cafe where we talked about brain health, brain, dementia prevention, and to dance and to keep physically fit and active. Oh man, it's the funnest month of the year.
What month is that?
September.
Aha, not
So
long to go.
definitely, if people are listening and you want to be involved in Dance Against Dementia, check out the website. Everything will point you towards it. It's very
That
fun.
sounds fun. Now, like any purpose-driven initiative, I imagine there's been both those beautiful moments where you stop and go, oh, this is why I do it. And of course, there's the challenges, as with everything. What have been some of the peaks and troughs on your journey so far?
The troughs have definitely been awareness of the stigma and misconceptions of what is dementia, in Australia. That's really tough sometimes because I think there's such a long way to go to increase people's empathy and compassion and towards people that are going through this. And I guess that really has propelled me to continue to go through continue to build this organization. Another trough has been funding and sustaining it always with the vision that it is grassroots and it stays in that grassroots space.
Yeah, that's hard.
That we don't lose sight of why we existed how we evolved in the first place. And of course, government funding has been there for the taking, and there's lots of money that if we change the way we operate, we could probably be more financially viable certainly year on year, but it's not the reason why we're here. This has to be a community. It can't be anything. And look, that's where my challenge is actually articulating that and communicating that so that it doesn't go in a different direction and it stays central to the people. There has to be a dementia cafe in far North Queensland or the outback Northern Territory. And if, the money has to get there. It can't just be in the big cities.
Yeah.
It has to be rural, and we have to teach people how to do it in the regional areas. So that's been big, the stigma, the funding, the misconceptions of what is dementia. But the aside from that, and the things that have thrived and things that are amazing that I've come out of this is volunteer teams. I've never run a volunteer team before I ran Umbrella Dementia Cafés. My gosh, these people are the heartbeat. You can't even, there's no way I could express in a podcast the impact these women, particularly, because 80% of our volunteer team are women over 70, how much lived experience and skills these women bring to a dementia cafe, the compassion, the empathy, the teamwork, the can-do attitude, the networking. Oh my gosh, I am so lucky to be surrounded by these women, and most of them have lived experiences. So if you're organizing or managing or supporting volunteers, I have learned listening to these guys. I go, what do you need? How do you need it? My job is made easier because they just tell me what they need and I just can go out and get it. I have technical skills, computer skills, I've got I got access to funding where I can bring it in, and they just do the work. They just do the supporting, the work of supporting. So that the leader learning about people and understanding how teams work for these dementia cafes, that's a real buzz. But the other thing I've learned is how resilient families are in these situations, how they get through the hardest, most tragic situations, and how people adapt, the human spirit of families and surviving, how they're desperately looking for connection in a place of real darkness. And when I see the couples walk in that door, even if there was 2 weeks before they did the last time they walked through it, and to have volunteers hold them up, my gosh, it's just beyond. It's it just reminds us how important it is to that social, how important socializing is, especially when you're the most isolated group in our community. It is not hard to offer someone a cup of coffee and just to listen. You don't have to have a solution to their problems. You just have to listen and have empathy. And that is gold. There might be a conversation about contacting a helpline, towards the end, which is helpful. But when you're so stressed, and you just want to talk, then give someone space to do that.
That's nice. It's a safe space too. You've created a very beautiful model, which, I can see it going so far once people understand it and that stigma is broken down. But it's going to be, you've got work ahead of you, I'm assuming, to get to that point. But there certainly sounds like you're already well on your way doing that with your advocacy and everything. But well done to you. It's an incredible achievement. And I think, I always say, I look at kids and they have no prejudice and they don't understand stigma. And so to bring kids into a world of dementia, they just treat these people as they are, as they see them, and bring that joy. And it's all about
Exactly the
that joy.
same. Yep.
And
And the
yet,
play comes through really, really easily. There's no inhibitions of social expectations. And, music is just a huge part of that, and games. It's so natural. And we often forget, I think, appropriate behaviors can sometimes stop us from playing, what people might think of us. But when you're living with dementia, your inhibitions sort of come off the boil a little bit. So you respond to your physical environment. And that can work in a negative way too, right? So if you've got an environment that's not suited to you, you're probably going to have a response that is, understandable, because you're not going to be too happy.
Yep, absolutely.
But if it's a positive environment, you're going to see some pretty special conversations and activities.
That's so nice. It must be very rewarding coming to it. Challenging, but very rewarding.
Oh yeah. If I've had a bad day, Kate, and I'm in front of the computer too long, I just nip down to the dementia cafe for half a day. I'm back on.
You're done. Yeah, it's beautiful. And you need to, don't you? You need to remind yourself what your purpose is. And that's just perfect. Right. We're going to just a little bit more lighthearted. Obviously, the podcast is called The Glitter Effect. And I often refer to people as glitter kings and queens, which you are now officially in glitter royalty. Welcome.
Thank you.
But I always ask our guests, who do you class as like a glitter king and queen that has inspired you or supported you to get to where you are today? Is there any one, or it could be more than one person?
Yeah, there is. I love this question so much. My glitter queen is my grandma. She's unfortunately passed away. She passed away in 2023 with dementia. She had vascular dementia. But my grandma was a community woman through and through. Like everything she did, I understood community through her.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And how she fosters those relationships and how important they are to your sense of self. But really, my true kings and queens who inspire the bigger group are the carers who are supporting their loved one with dementia. These people need to be on a pedestal. They need to be. They need a place where they have a voice to talk about what they're going through, because it's in these conversations the solutions can be found in a bigger economic business space. They have a really clear needs, and if we can build a business or a community of people to support, to find solutions for them, their lives are going to be so much easier, and they can stay at home and support their loved ones longer. But honestly, these people inspire me every day for their resilience, and through their profound grief, they're still able to care for their loved one at home. So they are the true heroes of Umbrella Dementia Cafés.
That's lovely. I love that. Now, you've touched on it already at the Glitter Effect. We talk about those seemingly small actions that create like powerful ripples. What does the Glitter Effect mean to you? and how have you seen it play out in your cafes?
I just want to say your glitter effect sense, what you've created is fabulous. I think it aligns with us so well. When I did the research on this, Kate, my heart just grew. I'm so pleased
Oh,
that
thank
we're
you.
doing this together. But what you've created, you've like what glitter effect is for me, how I saw it as a positive influence.
Yep.
Certainly the kindness, and this conversation is a big one. Kindness is not just being nice,
Yeah.
right? So I love that we can unpack that. And you certainly have that community drive that resonates with me and
Oh,
Umbrella Dementia Cafés. So
awesome.
um, thank you. I love it. I love being part of a group of people who can just do it, you
Yeah.
know, have a go, make mistakes, learn from them quickly, try again, do it. Yeah. So
That's
that's with the glitter effect for me. Sparking joy, mate.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Spot on. And do you know what? There are so many people who are on board with this too, and I'm loving it. Now, for someone who's listening today who wants to make a difference in their own way, and for some people, as we've touched on, it could be quite overwhelming to be confronted with dementia diagnosis in their
Mm.
family. For for anyone who's navigating a journey or who knows someone navigating a journey, what's one tip you could share with them about how they could spread their glitter and take their first step today in helping others?
The first thing I would always say is to listen, have a cup of coffee, take them out. It's an hour just to really understand what their interests and needs are, to build the trust. There's going to be a connection piece in there, and it's not a place where you're it's not a conflict. It's not disagreeing with what their reality is. It's just understanding what their reality is, because it is theirs, it's not yours. And to really listen with that. And then there are local community supports around to support people going through this. It's really hard to find them when you're in the thick of it yourself. You can't see the wood through the trees.
Yeah,
To have
sure.
that support person, to care for the carer, to bolster them, and to find little snippets of in the community impact stuff. Like Umbrella Dementia Cafés are always found by somebody who's supporting the carer. It's not necessarily the carer that's coming to us,
Yeah.
who's really listened and had that supportive ear. And there are great helplines. Like there is Dementia Australia, Dementia Sport Australia, Dementia Training Australia, the Carers Gateway. So they're just four I can just quickly jump off my head. Carers Victoria, Carers Australia, they do have wonderful resources for people to link in with and access and register for.
Mhm.
It's just having the time to research them and to register for them. But when you're caring for somebody, if you've got an hour free, you're going to try and be as still and calm and find your center as possible. So if you're somebody else that's supporting the carer, it would be so helpful if you could do that for them and then bring that information back for them to make a decision.
That's great advice. Well done. That's amazing. So it's great to hear there's so many resources out there. And like you say, it's just finding them, isn't it? And talking of resources, if people want to find out more, which I'm sure they will now after our chat about Umbrella Dementia Cafés, or if they want to get involved, how do they do that, Kirsty?
Well, first place is always the website. You can have an opportunity to put in inquiries form, and we are just about to launch a brand new one, so it's a little bit special. But the updates, all the fun bits, and the videos and the photos and all that is Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, all those fun socials. And always our call to action is to consider donating to us, because we're not government funded. But it's not, don't hurt yourself doing that. Just do it for your local dementia cafe. If you have one, find out who's running them and how you can support them, or come to us and we can help you find out where your local dementia cafe is too.
Amazing. Kirsty, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for joining me on The Glitter Effect today. Your story, your passion, and your unwavering commitment to those living with dementia and their loved ones are nothing short of inspiring. And I really enjoyed unpacking it all today with you. Through the Umbrella Dementia Cafés, you're not just creating safe spaces, you're creating community, compassion, and connection where it's needed the most. The ripple effect of your work is far reaching. And today you've reminded us all of the power of kindness, dignity, and simply showing up for others. Your glitter is quiet, but extraordinarily powerful. And I know that those who hear your story will walk away with full hearts and a renewed belief in what's possible when they actually lead with purpose, like yourself. Thank you for everything that you do, and thank you for sharing your glitter with us today. Keep shining, Kirsty, because the world is a much better place with you in it, and we look forward to following what happens next with your cafes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate. Yes, let's do this again in 6 months. We'll hopefully have some results of our next stage of helping other people set up dementia cafes.
Oh, you're on. Take care. Speak soon.
Thanks, Kate. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining me, Kate Ganneil, on The Glitter Effect. If you've loved this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep showing up, making an impact, and sprinkling that glitter wherever you go. Bye for now.